Did you know your business can honor God while transforming lives around the world? Welcome to the IBAM Biblical Entrepreneurship Show, the weekly podcast that inspires and equips Christian entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that glorify God and uplift impoverished communities. At IBAM, our mission is built on the three fish metaphor. Give a fish. We provide startup loans to launch businesses. Teach to fish. We offer entrepreneur training for lasting growth, equipped for discipleship. We empower discipleship to multiply impact. Join IBAM's founder, Steve Adams, as he shares powerful solo episodes and expert interviews filled with mentorship insights and real-life stories of how biblical entrepreneurship is advancing the Great Commission. Subscribe now and get ready to be inspired, equipped, and empowered to make an eternal impact.
Hi, Steve Adams here. Welcome to the IBAM Kingdom Impact Summit, where business becomes discipleship. And in this interview, we have Scott Wead and Dave Pavlin from CityServe. And I just want to welcome you guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve, for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, also for being on.
Yeah, great to be with you. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. So, Dave, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself? Tell us your story, and then we'll have Scott do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I come out of the business world, and in 1997, my wife, my brother, and I started a durable medical equipment for hospice patients, and it really grew over 20 years. We became one of the largest ones in the United States. God had such an impact on that because there's, as we all know in businesses, there's those points of hitting a wall or hurdles we have to get through, and God just guided us. So in 2016, in January, I sold it to a venture company out of New York City. And really, after building a business, there's a sense of emptiness. And so I met Dave Donaldson and Wendell Vincent in 2017, and we started an organization called CityServe. And Wendell out of Bakersfield, California, and now Dave Donaldson, who's actually in the White House in the faith-based office. We continue to work together, even though Dave is not directly involved with CityServe because of his government involvement. We continue to carry on. And so my background is in business. And when it comes to CityServe, my wife and I and others have become more back of the office, setting up the entities, managing money, dealing with HR, kind of the grease in the wheels to keep this moving. And even though some other individuals are tip of the spear and continue to develop those relationships, I feel our role behind the scenes is really just as important.
Yeah.
So I'll let Scott elaborate.
Yeah, Scott.
And then I can get into some CityServe.
Stuff. Definitely. Scott, tell us your story.
Yeah, so I've got about 25 years in nonprofit leadership, and I started on the admin side of a pretty large international faith-based outreach, managing offices in all over the world, about 7 offices and 80 staff, and the Lord really put it on my heart to plant a church.
Okay.
In 2008, and so my wife and I, we with our youngest newborn daughter, planted a church in Orange County, California, where we saw God's hand on it. We saw the church grow, and God provided, and we spent about 13 years there as senior pastors in Orange County, California. And I had a crazy lunch with Dave Donaldson at CityServe, and he introduced me to Dave Pavlin and Pastor Wendell and some of these guys, and they convinced me to come to CityServe. So I passed the church off to a leader. But the thing that attracted me about CityServe was their heart to support local churches. As the pastor of a local church that knew what it was to start with nothing and to grow and try to get staffing, it was quite an adventure. And I realized, after 13 years, seeing an organization like CityServe, whose mission is to help people out there on the front lines, was very refreshing. And so I started working with CityServe and in their church relations initially, and really trying to connect churches to this great resource that CityServe was. But along the way, I started dabbling in grants, and specifically federal and state grants. And we kind of, as a pilot project, wrote 6 grants, and we won 5 of them
Wow.
for about $9 million.
Wow.
And I was impacted by that because all of these churches that we helped win this money were able to hire all this staff. And going back to my 13 years of pastoring and trying to build, with only tithe dollars,
Yeah, right.
we were missing something. And I've gone on to see, now I think we're approaching 400 million in fundraising through
Wow.
the National Grant Center, which is, over 5 years. It's been quite a journey, but I wish I knew what I know now.
Yeah, we all
Uh,
could say that.
yeah, but it's great to support pastors, and it's great to support ministries and groups that are really doing a great job in the community. But maybe they don't know how to tap into potential partnership with the government. So that's been a passion of mine over these past few years.
So did you ever think, then we'll get into what City Serve is. And did you ever think though, as a pastor, that you would be writing grants professionally like this?
No, I think as a pastor, my prayer was our church would grow and we
Right.
change our city, and and it just goes to show you sometimes when when you're in a situation that's tough, and it's like trying to speak to a plant to tell it to grow.
Yeah.
It's a slow process. It doesn't happen instantly, and but sometimes when you're going in the trenches in your work, you don't realize that God's actually preparing you and
Yeah.
your
Mm,
heart for what he wants you to do, because
right.
now I've been able to help dozens and dozens of churches have more impact than I could have as a pastor of my
Yeah.
own.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and and so it's great. I got into this world of nonprofit with the heart to serve others.
Mm,
As I pastored with the heart to serve others, and now I have a heart to serve those servants of
sure.
others. So it's a great joy.
So
And
Dave, as you talk, well, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, Scott's dad, Doug Wead, had a phenomenal history and became very close to the president, and actually wrote some of the biographies for Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
Scott grew up in D.C. and has a lot of exposure there. It's a fun story if we ever have time to
Yeah.
get into that.
Yeah, let's do that.
But
But when you talk about City Serve, talk about what problem is City Serve solving for the local church to help it expand its impact? I think I
yeah,
know what it is, but I want to hear you as one of the
sure.
founders talk about that.
Sure. When we first started, we knew that the local church was in trouble to a certain extent. We know
Hmm.
that the small church is 250 or less, give or
Yep.
take. And so with that, they have different needs than a super church that has a lot of funding, has a lot of outreach. And so our intent is to really help support the local church, because we know it's a direct impact to the local community,
Hmm.
direct relationship.
Right.
And most who are engaged in that know that's pretty obvious.
Yep.
So when we started it, we came up with 10 initiatives, and you can go to cityserve.us and see these initiatives. But the hungry, the oppressed, the orphan, the prisoner, the vulnerable, the widow, the poor and jobless, addicted, the unreached, and then also the nation of Israel, which
Mm.
I can elaborate on that. And so with that, the question is, how do you bring these small churches out of themselves and begin to collaborate not only with the community, but other churches? And that's really key. So one of our first actions was a program called F2F, Farmers to Families.
Hmm.
If you remember, during COVID, a lot of protein, a lot of fruits and vegetables were dying in the field because the commercial restaurant business collapsed.
Right.
And so the government actually came to a group of organizations, and one of them was led by City Serve. And so the government would give us money. We would buy these boxes of food through large distributor houses, the protein, and then give them out via the church to
Right.
thousands of people.
As your
And
distribution network. Right.
exactly.
Yep.
And so we could come up with hundreds and hundreds of distribution centers within days.
Yep.
whereas the government struggles with that last mile.
Right.
And
Right.
so we were able to really have a lot of success. It helped the farmers, it helped the protein growers, and it made the Trump administration really sensitive to how the local church works.
Yeah. And
Um,
also it's, that's like a fundamental basis of needs-based evangelism. The church is showing up in a big way and being relevant.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's
Yep.
and so one of the aspects is you could get a smaller church to engage with other little churches to get involved with the F2F program, and so some relationships were formed. But as we grew, F2F went finished, and so we've moved on to other projects. And just a little one recently is the Trump administration, as we know, is beginning to cut down on some block grants like
Okay.
AID, et cetera.
Yep.
The thinking was we used to give these big block grants to communities, but there was no outcome. We didn't have any proof that they were working.
Right.
The new strategy now is, rather than a blank block grant distribution, is to get more into contract work. So the churches, the local organizations actually have a contract with a bigger organization to perform, and then hold them accountable,
Yep.
provide the deliverables,
It,
provide feedback.
is City
And
Serve acting as that
it,
bigger organization that the church is partnered with?
that's exactly right. And an example of that is yesterday, Governor Huckabee in Arkansas just spoke to this, where they are going to reduce some of the Medicaid, shifting some of the Medicaid spend, some other spend to the local churches to have impact within the community. And we're hoping that this is a trend because it works, and we're going to be behind it. So City Serve's goal is to be the tip of the spear and can not only in
Right.
Arkansas, but begin to scale this.
Scott, what kind of projects are you seeing done around the country that are really innovative, that where the church is solving a problem at society level and it's also putting them in a position to expand the kingdom through the gospel?
Well, I think, Jesus said, by this the world will know your mind, by your love one for
Yep.
another.
Yep.
And, John 13:35. And I think that if, wherever we're showing love, there's opportunity for partnership.
Hmm.
I've written grants for transitional housing for foster care, for kids transitioning out of foster care, where we have a church run a housing facility.
Yep.
I've written grants where maybe a church, they want to do something for the community and they're seeing their schools struggle. And I've seen churches set up STEAM programs where they are, working with public schools to provide after school care. And
Hmm.
they actually are teaching science and they're teaching math, but they're also teaching the arts. And so they take their worship team, and their worship team during the week, when they're not leading worship, are out there running a school of rock in a school,
Hmm.
teaching kids, building relationships with kids, and helping them get better at schoolwork. And then on the weekends, those same staff are there leading worship on Sunday morning. And that's a real benefit for both the community and the church. The church can pay livable wages to their worship team. The community gets, really quality musicians and educators to support teachers that are, already working long days and underpaid. So it's a great strategic partnership. I see a lot in the area of, there was just a big grant that came out for marriage and family.
Hmm.
Um, the structure for much of our infrastructure for society is based on marriage and family,
Right.
and you have many people are on welfare, and you can trace the direct roots back to the fact that they didn't have a father, they didn't have a family, they didn't
Yep.
dealing with this. So there's a fatherhood grant that we just recently wrote and won for a church. So lots of programs like that. There's also a lot in the area that I think is real faith friendly, is in the area of sexual risk avoidance education, uh,
Mm.
where you have churches are great at doing midweek services. They are really good at engaging their congregation to come in for small groups, or to teach a class, or to buy an off the shelf curriculum that is, that and do a Bible study with it.
Hmm.
Translates pretty well to some of these government programs. You just need to change the language because there are evidence-based curriculums that the government, looks and sees that there's been studies that if someone goes through this class, then they're less likely to get pregnant or
Yep.
they're
Yep.
less likely to make a poor choice. A lot in the area of violence prevention. We want a lot of money for people to make smarter decisions.
Right.
So yeah, and the church is already doing a lot of this. They're already on the front lines of recovery. They're already in the front
Right.
of a lot of these areas.
Yep.
We're just not speaking the right language. So
Right.
in one sense, a lot of I had to learn how to. I already knew how to speak church. I had to learn how to speak government and figure out how do we translate what it is we're doing into a language that that the people sitting on the money feel
Yep.
safe with
Right.
because they don't speak the same language as us.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave.
Steve, I just wanted to, when we started City Serve, we actually have a domestic aspect, domestic investment, and we have an international investment. We spun off the Grant Center under Neighborhoods to the Nations, which Scott leads. And
Uh-huh.
so we have the government relationship, and then within it, we have the Grant Center. That's a separate 501c3. There's a firewall there.
Right.
But Scott has been instrumental in finding grants for various churches. But the key is to make sure that church is grant ready and can really not only receive the grant, execute the grant, provide
Right.
the reporting. A good example of that, which Wendell Vinson was in, they just built I think it was 120 room transitional housing right in the parking lot of an old Montgomery Ward store.
Oh, wow.
$35 million grant, which they built, and it's just amazing. So just a little backstory, this Montgomery Ward's store, which is huge, was donated to Canyon Hills Church, and that's our City Serve Center there.
Okay.
And we provide a variety of services there, and but that's our main domestic hub there in Bakersfield. But I wanted to point out the firewall.
Thank you for listening to the International Business as Mission podcast, a space where we explore how to build businesses rooted in biblical principles that create global impact. But we're not just here to talk. We're taking action to spread entrepreneurship to poverty-stricken communities around the world. Our mission is to be the catalyst that empowers people to build sustainable livelihoods and break the cycle of poverty. We follow the 3 fish principle. 1, give a fish, providing startup loans to empower entrepreneurs. 2, teach to fish, offering entrepreneurial training for sustainable business practices. And 3, equip for disciple making, building a community that supports spiritual growth alongside business success. This is life-changing work, but we can't do it alone. We need passionate impact partners like you to join us on this mission by becoming a donor. Your generous gift will directly fund the establishment of new businesses that provide dignified work and hope. Just imagine your donation could help a single mother in rural Africa start a small farming venture that allows her to feed her children and send them to school, or a young man in Southeast Asia to launch a small business. Breaking the chains of generational poverty. This is the power of entrepreneurship as a force for good. Will you join us in unleashing it? Go to IBAM.org now to start impacting lives through the transformative power of business as mission. Together we can create a world of flourishing.